Welcome back to S&S Girls, everybody. My name is Mike from the Everyday Barbecue YouTube channel, and today we're going to be grilling some juicy, delicious pork chops out on the slow and sear Kettle grill. We'll also be pairing that up with an incredible homemade barbecue sauce. You're going to love this one. Stay tuned because it's coming up right now. Once again, welcome back, everyone. We really appreciate your support, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button down there so you don't miss out on any of these great recipes. Now let's get right into today's recipe. We are making a homemade barbecue sauce today for this recipe, and I started out by making this yesterday so it would have time for all those flavors to really come together. So to put this together, it's really simple. Just get yourself a pot and start out with some ketchup for your base. To that, we'll be adding some apple cider vinegar, pineapple juice, brown sugar, Worcestershire sauce. I always wonder if I'm saying that right. Next, we'll add some honey, dried coarse garlic, which really gives some beautiful texture to this sauce, and some coarsely fresh cracked black pepper, again, to add some great texture to the sauce. Now just get that on a low to medium heat, bring it to a gentle simmer, and stir it frequently. It'll take about 10 to 15 minutes to get it to the right consistency. And don't forget, once it cools, it's going to thicken even further. Allow it to cool fully, transfer it into a jar or a container until it's time to serve. If you make it the day before, make sure to refrigerate it. Now let's talk about these pork chops. I'm using a thick pork chop today. The most important thing about buying these pork chops, besides choosing something fresh that looks good, is to get something that's nice and thick. You'll want something about 1.5 inches to 2 inches thick. The thicker chop not only is good because it's thicker, but it's going to give you more leeway for the cook so you can really nail it. We'll start the prep for these pork chops the day before so we can get the best results possible. Simply unpackage your pork chops, get them onto a rack, onto a tray, and we're going to do a dry salt brine. I'm using a coarse kosher salt today, and you'll just want to cover all sides of these pork chops. Now there is an equation you can use if you are using coarse kosher salt. It's about 1/2 teaspoon per pound. If you decide to go with table salt, make sure you reduce that to 1/4 teaspoon per pound. Once those are covered, just get those into the refrigerator overnight. This dry salt brine process really helps to produce a juicy end result with tons and tons of flavor throughout the entire bite. The salt will draw moisture out of the meat, liquefy, and it will all reabsorb back into the meat. This gives you delicious flavor through and through, and it will also help tenderize the meat by denaturing the proteins. Now you can see the difference from when I started with these pork chops to now after the salt brine. They have a much deeper, darker color, and you can tell that that salt has really absorbed into this meat. Now we are almost ready to get these out on the kettle, so the next step is to get these seasoned up. And today, I'm going to be using a combination of our two rubs, Rocky's rub and the Not Just for Beef rub. I really love the combination of these two rubs together, and I use a 50-50 mix. You can see there's a nice coarse nature to this rub, and an important note for these two rubs, they contain no salt. So all the salt from today's cook comes from the dry salt brine process. So we just want to get a thin layer of olive oil here on both. Now we'll apply our rub generously. Generously because there's, again, no salt, so you can really build up some nice texture on the outside. Be sure to get all sides with the oil and the rub. This smells incredible already. There's a nice sweetness in that Rocky's rub, and the Not Just for Beef rub has a real nice pepperiness to it. So these are just magic together. Okay, so now that we've got these seasoned up, we're just gonna let these hang out here on the counter while we get our kettles set up for today's cook. We're going to be cooking today at a temperature of about 250 degrees Fahrenheit, right in that range. If you're a little under or a little over it, you're okay. Just keep it in that range. My setup for today's cook is the slow and sear in place. I do have the water reservoir, even though we're not going to be cooking with water today. My drip and griddle is in place to make cleanup nice and easy. And we'll be using a few other tools as well, including the S&S 500 remote thermometer to monitor temperatures in these pork chops, as well as the kettle. Now to lock in today's temperatures, I simply started with about 12 to 15 coals in one corner of the slow and sear. I lit my fire starter and I allowed those coals to begin catching. After those coals do catch, you can go ahead and place the lid on the cooker, open up your top vent fully, and for today's cook, I'll just be using the smoke hole as my bottom vent. So I have my main vent closed fully, and I have my smoke hole opened fully. The smoke hole really helps me dial in precise temperatures on low and slow cooks. Now once you have the lid on the kettle, just monitor temperatures. Once you get to within about 75 or 100 degrees of your target temperature, begin choking back your vents until you get it dialed in perfectly. Here's a quick look at what my final vent settings look like, but keep in mind there's lots of variables to this, so that's just a starting point for you. Once your temperature is locked in, fill the remainder of the slow and sear with unlit coal. So now that our temperatures are dialed in and these pork chops are ready to go, there's nothing left to do but to get these out onto the indirect side of the slow and sear kettle and begin cooking. All right, so we've been going about 30 minutes roughly, and these chops are both right in that 90 degrees Fahrenheit range. So we're gonna go ahead and give these a turn just to promote some even cooking. And you can see we have got some beautiful color here. So let's just go ahead and give these a quick turn. All right, lid back on. All right, it's been about another 30 minutes and both of these pork chops are right in that 130 degree Fahrenheit range. So let's get these probes removed and get these a quick sear, just about 30 to 45 seconds per side. Just take a look at that beautiful color. Final finishing target temperature for today is 140 to 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's get these seared off and then we'll get them inside for the taste test. Now let's give these coals a quick stir and allow them about a minute or two to get roaring hot. Let's get these moved over. All right, it's been about 45 seconds. Let's give these a flip. Beautiful color. The smell is just incredible. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I got these plated up. We put our homemade barbecue sauce on, and I did add a little bit of parsley just for some color and some pop. We nailed our finishing temperature on this cook, and I did double check it with the S&S 100 Insta-Read thermometer. This smells absolutely crazy good. So I'm excited to get into this taste test, and I guess there's probably not a whole lot left for us to do. One last look at this work of art. I mean, just look at that. It's juicy, it's just perfect. Let me get a little bite action here. Favorite part of my day. I'm gonna get a second opinion from myself. All right, look, now I know I always tell you about how every step in our prep process comes out in the finished product, but it's really true or I wouldn't say it. Now you see how juicy this is, and I can tell you that there is a nice salt flavor through and through that entire bite. It's not overly salted, it's just absolutely perfect. Really good smoky flavor, good clean smoky flavor, and that barbecue sauce just finishes this off. I get a little hint of that pineapple, just enough sweetness, just enough tanginess, and it really finishes this off. So when you do the prep and you do the cook correctly, you can get results like this too. All right, that's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'm gonna go ahead and finish my lunch. I wanna thank you very much for hanging out with me today. Remember, till next time, 2 zones are better than 1, and I'll see you on the next video.